Okay. Yeah, shalom everyone, and welcome once again to Conversations with Caleb Cookie Gang. So it's been a few minutes, and I just felt like there are a number of speaking engagements I've had recently. They were mostly to certain communities. Like this one was to the Society of Petroleum Engineers Uniben chapter, but I felt like I could take those same presentations and still speak on them for your benefit, and I trust this also will be of value to you. So I want to once again appreciate the leadership, the executive committee of the SP Uniben, specifically the SecGen Jacob Daniel, for this invite. They had this conference. It had both the virtual and physical session, and the theme was beyond membership. It was a public speaking and a leadership conference, right? So I spoke during the virtual session because I could not join in physically in Benin. I'm currently in Lagos, and my topic was transformational leadership, becoming a leader people trust and follow. And so I would just want to share a few things that I trust would also be of of value to you, right? Still on this topic. I'll just go through the slides. Okay, that was my introduction, multidisciplinary scholar, and every other thing where I currently work, and all, right? It's And once again, welcome and thank you. Now, one of the first things I would want to differentiate is positional leadership versus transformational leadership, right? Sometimes we assume that, okay, those persons who hold this office or position of authority are leaders, maybe because they are the president of the nation or the governor of the state, or maybe even at lower levels, being the representative of a class or the president of the student union, all of those things, right? Oftentimes, those are the people we call these are leaders, these are our leaders. But I want to emphasize something that for each and every one of us, we are called to be leaders. For each and every one of us, we are privileged to lead, just not always at the same levels or at the same time or to the same degree or over the same number of persons. Do you understand? Right? So, leadership is more about influence, leadership is more about the ability to cast a vision and work towards the fulfillment of it. And it starts with your own self leadership, where you are leading yourself, you are making decisions, you are setting goals, and you are accomplishing them. And then, of course, it extends to all of the um, different levels and degrees that we have. But I'm saying this to once again emphasize that you are a leader. Don't think that, oh, transformational leadership, I want to talk about some persons who hold positions of authority. By privilege, I've held a few, but it's not about that. It's more about understanding that leadership begins with you seeing yourself as a person of influence and creating value and sustaining trust. And one thing is that inevitably, as you keep at this, you begin to attract certain levels of followership. And today, we live in a world where it's so easy to build influence. I mean, we have people who have created a career out of being influencers. Like you ask them, "What's your job?" They say, "I'm an influencer." Right? Social media following and all of those things. But I want to emphasize what I mean by transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is that form of leadership that inspires growth, that encourages progress, that builds trust. Because if there's something that is a greater currency than money, it is trust, right? I was listening to Dangote a few days ago. I recently had an industrial visit to Dangote refinery. So around that time, I was just having a lot of what's the word? His speeches, a lot of his interviews come on my for you page on most of my platforms. And then I was listening to him, and one of the things he was saying is how, as they keep delivering on projects, including the that very big one, the refinery, what happens is that they're building trust, and more and more institutions are willing to back them because they have shown that they are able to deliver. I'm just simply trying to say that transformational leadership is that form of leadership that, as you cultivate trust, you will find that it is in and of itself very powerful. It has the ability to attract, garner support, and far and beyond what you can even expect. Right? Transformational leadership is that form of leadership that elevates people. We're not trying to just make people always and forever our followers. We're trying to raise followers to become leaders, right? One of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that some of the persons who a few years back were, my followers, my mentees, my students, as the years keep going, I see them also coming into greater positions of authority. It's fulfilling, right? Because that's the goal of leadership, to raise other leaders. And transformational leadership, from the word transformational, is not one that just accepts things as the status quo. It changes culture. We are not meant to be conformist. We are not meant to be followers of this is how it has always been. We have been called to shape, to form, to educate, to change culture, to change culture. And finally, transformational leadership is that one that creates positive influence beyond presence. If I'm asked to define leadership in one word, that is what it is for me. It's about influence. If I'm asked to define it in another word, especially based on the kingdom standard, leadership is service. Leadership is service. Leadership is influence. And it goes beyond your presence. It goes beyond just that time and season where you are physically present. It's that ability to even sometimes inform decisions and shape behavior even in your absence. And that is what I want each and every one of us um to not just aspire to, but to begin to grow into. I don't know if you get the difference between what I'm saying, right? Because we've been called to be transformational leaders. Think of when we read Matthew 5 and it refers to us as the salt of the earth, as the light of the world. These are what's the word? Metaphors to describe the transformational nature of our existence and our leadership. Okay, so moving on, there are four things that this entire presentation is structured around, and I'm just going to emphasize them, and that would be that for this, right? I call them the four C's, the foundation, the pillars of transformational leaders. When we look at people who have influenced the world, right? Think across it. Politics, education, entertainment. There are some things that stand out. There are some things that form the basis of being a transformational leader. And what it is, it is first of all your competence. We notice competence, right? The next thing is character, especially for long-term leadership, right? Then communication. If you must be a leader, if you must be transformational, you must be intentional about your communication. And then finally, your consistency, right? Now, because the original audience of these were mostly undergraduates and young professionals, it's going to reflect as I go on, right? But I also know that it's those foundations could be built on and emphasized even to very different levels and very different degrees. But I'm still going to emphasize it based on how it was originally, right? So once again, I want to remind you, that it's more about you building capacity, more about you being intentional about those areas of being a transformational leader and cultivating them intentionally. None of them is a talent that you say, oh, you either have it or not, right? They are all skills, they are all abilities that you can build and get better at. Your competence, your character, your communication, and finally your consistency. So when I'm speaking of competence, I'm talking about you have to know your craft, you have to be good at it, you have to whatever it is, your skills, your academics, your business, what you currently do as your job, as your work, you have to be good at it. The world will always recognize excellence. Excellence is a currency that is not limited by borders, right? You have to be good at it. It's that thing where think of the T shape. You have broad knowledge, but you are also deep in certain things, right? I know a lot of persons who are chasing visibility, seeking popularity and fame, but they have not built value in themselves. They've not gained certain competencies, and that is a real issue of concern, right? So specifically for students, you should go beyond just reading for exams and just memorizing things to pass the paper and go to the next level. We must learn to learn intentionally, to learn deeply, to build technical skills, to be able to solve problems. Do you understand? It's a burden on my heart that our educational system, we must go beyond just memorization and rote learning to begin to solve real problems. And a country like Nigeria, a continent like Africa, we have a lot of problems, and each and every one of these are also opportunities. Opportunities, right? So we must improve our problem solving ability. We must also learn to study and understand industry. right? Speaking specifically to this audience, it's the oil and gas industry. We must cultivate industrial awareness. That is also part of why, as a student, I was very intentional about going out on some industrial trips. I still do as a young professional. Like I said, just a few days back, I was at Dangote Refinery at Ibejureki, with special thanks to NSC Ikeja, the Nigerian Society of Engineers, NSC Ikeja branch that sponsored that. Right? We must be intentional about seeking exposure, about asking questions, because I found out that there are certain things you won't think of, you won't even dream about, you won't even conceive as your goals if you've not gained certain exposure, right? As you travel, as you learn, as you have certain interactions and conversations, what it does is that it begins to form the possibilities that you can foresee, right? So that is on that, as touching competence. Competence. Be very intentional about building your competence. The next thing I want to emphasize is your character. Your character. Who are you when nobody's watching? Because I found out that I wrote something here. People trust leaders whose words align with their actions. They trust leaders whose character can survive pressure. They trust leaders whose decisions show integrity. They trust leaders who have been proven to be trustworthy over time. And when we're speaking of character, character encompasses your reliability. Can we rely on you? Can we call on you and know that you will show up and deliver? It also speaks about humility. Because if you're not humble, you won't be able to learn, unlearn, learn, and get better. Also, speaking of teachability, right? The fact that you are the leader does not mean you know all. It simply means that you must have the ability to collaborate and work with people who are even smarter and more intelligent than you are, right? To accomplish the goal. It also speaks of accountability. See, it is dangerous to be under a leader who is not accountable to anyone. I'll say it again. It is dangerous to be under a leader who is not accountable to anyone, which is part of why I love the organogram of most organizations. You will find that even the person who is your lead also has a lead, also has a boss, right? Also has someone he or she answers to. It allows for accountability. As a leader, we must also be intentional about emotional maturity, especially because we have to interface with people, right? About emotional intelligence. You can't interact and interface with everyone at always the same. Do you understand that? Or the one where you are easy triggered. That is not a characteristic of a transformational leader. The Bible says that he that has control of his own soul, he that is able to, bring his soul into governance, is even stronger and greater than one that can take cities. Because we've seen men who have taken cities, who have conquered territories, and then couldn't conquer themselves, and it was their downfall. Think of the likes of Samson. Think of the likes of, all of the contemporary examples. Some of them got to certain heights, but because of the lack of character, they could not sustain the success, right? And I must tell you, character is not often tested in the times of convenience. It's not about, oh, it's comfortable. It's not about, oh, all of the times when it's just, as convenience. But it's usually in that in the seasons of pressure. I was saying to somebody that, see, if I press you, in a context, right? I was trying to explain something to her that if I put you under pressure, what is going to come out is just a revelation of who you truly are, right? Who you truly are. Because what happens is that when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. You can't squeeze an orange and get pineapple juice, right? So we must be intentional about cultivating character on a daily basis, right? Saying no to the things that don't align to our values, so that when it really counts, we can stand. So that the way I say it is, there are certain decisions you must make ahead of time, even before the pressure is there. So that it's not like in that moment you're trying to think of, oh, will I do this, will I not do this? You should know that, oh, it's a no already. There are things that are no, there are things that do not align with your values, right? Also, the place of self discipline, right? If you read Galatians, it tells you that self discipline is a fruit of the Spirit. Now, interestingly, it is self-discipline, right? It is temperance, but it's not something that you just do mechanically, but also as the Spirit helps you, right? But we shouldn't also become such irresponsible Christians that are not disciplined. I don't know how to put it, right? But I'm just simply saying that there's a need for us to govern our souls, for us to bring our you can be very powerful, very skilled, very talented, very, all of those things. But you must learn to govern that, right? To govern that. So that's speaking about character. The next thing I want to also emphasize is on communication. Communication, right? Because as a leader, you'd have to speak. As a leader, you'd have to express value. I also wrote something here, and I would want to go there now because the audience I was speaking to originally, most of them are engineers. So I have to emphasize that at some levels, it's beyond your technical know-how, right? Especially if you have intentions to grow into managerial positions, executive offices, to really build something that can also outlive you. It's beyond just technical skills. Technical skills are so important, right? I'm not trying to downplay them, but you must also have the ability to express value. You must also have the ability to communicate a vision so that people can buy into it. Do you understand? And I'm also saying communication is beyond the ability to speak English. Now, it's the ability to express your ideas clearly, to express it at such levels that people can get it. It's the ability to also listen. Sometimes we think communication is just talking. No, there's also the part of communication that is listening because life is often a dialogue, it's often this two-way interaction. So you must learn to listen. There's this book I love reading, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And one of the things he says is that seek first to understand and then to be understood. So sometimes we just have to listen to people, especially to those that we read, especially to those that we influence, right? Communication is also the ability to simplify complexity. Don't think that, oh, it's when you're high sounding and using vague terms and all of the jargons that you are communicating. No, right? It's more about the ability to bring things to the point where people can understand them and act on it, right? Communication also has to do with the ability to inspire confidence. Because especially in a situation like the continent we find ourselves, where sometimes it's easy for people to lose hope and all of that, we must learn to speak in such a way that you boost hope, you boost confidence. People have that assurance and know that they can do it, right? That they can go on to do great things, and that is how trust is built. That is how trust is built. Trust is not trust is the how do I put it? Is the foundation of leadership. Trust is what would really make people follow you, even to accomplish goals that look so great and mighty, right? And finally, for one of the things I want to say on this is that communication is the ability to connect with people respectfully. I'm someone who is so intentional about that, right? Even my closest friends, we have to maintain certain levels of courtesy, certain levels of mutual respect, right? All those things where people, because you are now friends, they become casual and just say, I can't even use some words now. That no, right? That's not something I'm in support of. We must learn to interact with people respectfully, to understand that for each and every one of us, right, we are people of value and there's what we deserve, even for just being humans, right? There's a basic level of value that we must place on ourselves. So some practical ways to improve communication. One, you must decide to improve. Don't say, "Oh, me, the communication is not really my thing. I'm a shy person." Nah, and you want to be a leader? No, it does not work. Do you understand? Right? You must understand that communication is a skill you can cultivate, and you must decide to improve. Right? And also, you can learn presentation skills, reading books. I can't count how many books on communication, on personal development that I've read. I can't. Right? You must be intentional about reading. Also, attending conferences and online. The University of YouTube, there's one channel that I can't even tell how many videos I've watched from there, and that is TED, right? And TEDx, those speeches. Because there's something that happens, which is the next point. When you follow and observe skilled speakers, you just begin to see, oh, this works. You begin to see how to introduce humor. You begin to see how to pause, right? You begin to see how to pace. I know I'm speaking so fast, right? Because part of the reason is I know that you can reduce the speed. I know that you can, increase the speed. And generally, I talk fast, but sometimes you must learn how to observe the most powerful, the most effective of communicators and learn from them, right? And also practice public speaking. There are people who are reading books, there are people who are attending conferences, but because they're not speaking, they're not getting better at communication. Communication is a skill. You will get better at it by doing. I'll say it again. It's a skill. You get better at it by doing. So whether it's a small platform, your classroom, in church, or wherever environment you find yourself, you get an opportunity to speak to two persons, 10 persons. Uh, Use that opportunity. Sometimes practice in front of your mirror. That is how you get better, right? Just hold your phone and talk to your phone. You'll begin to find out that you use a lot of failure words, and you can begin to cut down on it, right? During discussions, speak up, share your opportunity, share your thoughts, share your ideas, ask a question, right? Also, part of communication is that sometimes it's not oral, it's not verbal, it's also written, So you must learn to write professionally. enough of these things where I'm seeing on people's status and they're just making all kinds of mistakes. Or learn to write professionally. And one platform that really supports that is LinkedIn. I'm not talking about the one where people are just copying and pasting AI. No, that's not what I'm referring to. Right? You must learn to express your ideas clearly with very simple, proper words that people can understand. Also, Substack. I have some pages and channels that I subscribe to there, and I see people also putting out very good content there. Right? You must learn also how to explain technical concepts simply. You're in medicine, you're in law, you're in engineering, accounting, all of the professions. I know you have your jargon, I know you have all of your technical terms, but you must learn to communicate at such levels that people can understand and follow. So that's what I want to speak about on communication. And then I'll just go to the last point which I have, and that would be that for this presentation. But I hope you're learning and I hope it's been of value to you. The last is consistency, which is the key, right? Why is this important? Okay. Why is this important, right? There are some persons who I can't edit the video. I really am just going to put it through, but I just saw a message that made me smile, right? Why is this important? Consistency, because leadership is built over time, right? Influence is cultivated over time. I'm going to say that again at the ending, right? So it's not just the things that you do once in a while. It's not just the things that you do. Maybe today you are so impressive, and then tomorrow you're just there. You must understand that leadership is revealed through sustained excellence over time. Aristotle, I believe, said that excellence then is not an act; it is a lifestyle. Do you understand? I'm just simply trying to say that your habits are really what make you. You make your habits, then they make you. It's more about the things you do consistently. That is how you multiply your force. That is how you actually produce results that are scaled. There are things that you keep doing, and it's over the process of time that the real effect, that the real capacity for it, right? The real results are delivered. So I'm simply saying that even when motivation is reduced, even when the results delay, even when you're not seeing all of it, so evident, can people still depend on you? Can you still be consistent and keep at it until you've achieved the results that you want? So start now. Don't wait till when you have leadership over 1 million people. Start now. Begin to develop your competence intentionally, guard your character carefully, improve your communication deliberately, and build your consistency daily. The secrets of great men is in their daily habits, is in their daily routine. If I follow you for a day and 2 days or maybe a week, what would I see about your daily lifestyle? Is this something you would even be proud to show, or you would want to start pretending for a season, right? So, what is it that you are, being consistent with, and a call to action? Now, just choose one of those leadership quality that you want to improve on and work on it intentionally. See, nothing will work until you work, right? Just have those action points. That this is something I want to change. Just touching my competence. I'm going to get that certification. I'm going to learn the skill. Or about my character. This is something I'm going to stop doing. Or this is a value that I'm going to hold most dear. Or something. Or communication. That next opportunity to speak. You're invited. Say yes and speak. Right? Or consistency. Just keep at it because I'm rooting for you and I'm trusting that definitely you're going to get to the top. We'll meet at the top, and it's definitely going to be a thing of joy. So because that was a live session, I could take questions and contributions and also appreciation. And there was also the opportunity to connect with me, right? And also you can reach out via WhatsApp or via LinkedIn, and I'll be very much willing to respond. I also want to appreciate once again Jacob Daniel for the certificate. This came in much later, and I sincerely do appreciate it, right? So I trust this has been of value to you. So four things once again to pay attention to: your competence, your character, your communication, and your consistency. If you keep at this, I tell you the truth, right? You will truly become a transformational leader, one who people can trust and who people can follow. Thank you and God bless. Shalom.